Hey there nation, welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander CheapSkate, and we are back with another edition of the Underhive Wars, and this time we're showing you exactly how our Dominion campaign is going after round number 2 of our Dominion campaign for the Turf War to control Sector 7 of our Necromunda Dominion campaign. And as you can see, the campaign map is definitely very different than it was when we first started off at the beginning of the scenarios. So as you can see here, we have all the hexes that are illustrated with the different territories that the gangs are controlling, as well as a key for you guys to take a look. Blue territories are controlled by House Cawdor, Orlok control the red territories, Delak controls yellow, Vansar controls green, Goliath controls orange, Escher controls purple, Gene Stealer cults control black, and Chaos Cultists control brown. And now the other two gangs, the Enforcers as well as the Venators, they don't control territories because they don't have that. And as you can see, the terrain table for our map is quickly getting populated. So far, 3 gangs control 3 hexes of territory. Over here we have the Eschers, which are in 3rd place of our campaign. They control a waste as well as a settlement, as well as a Stinger Sprawl mold sprawl for their territories. We have the Gene Stealer Cult of the Red Faction, who control a settlement as well as a Rogue Dog shop, as well as a Mineworks. And the 3rd gang control 3 territories is my gang, the Jury of House Cawdor. They control a settlement, a slag furnace, as well as old ruins. The Sleeping Dogs currently control 2 territories with their settlement as well as a narco den. The Pelago Slam Kings control 2 as well with their settlement as well as a Promethean cache. And of course we also have the, the Orloks, and the Orloks still have only 1 hex. They're controlling their own settlement, while the Vansar controlling 2 hexes with their settlement as well as a corpse farm. So as you can see here, the territories are slowly being populated as well. So with the territories over, let's go and talk about exactly where all the gangs are going for round number 3. So by the end of round number 2, here's our current listings of all the gangs and with the ratings that they have. In 1st place, we have the Gene Stealer Cults of the Red Faction. They're currently holding the lead in the 2nd time in a row for our campaign. Followed closely in 2nd place with the Jury of House Cawdor. 3rd place is the Killjoys of House Escher. 4th place are the Precinct 13 of the Adeptus Arbites Enforcers. 5th place is the Pelago Slam Kings of House Goliath. 6th place is 9/11 of House Vansar, followed by 7th place with the Sleeping Dogs of House Delak. Then we also have 8th place, that is the Iron Sights of House Orlok. 9th place is Section 8 with the Venators. And finally, bring up the last place is of course the Dustmen of the Chaos Cultists, who have lost both their battles so far in this current campaign. So things are not looking very good for those guys. And so as you can see here, we also have it matched up for round number 3 of our campaign. So the very first round will be fought between the Jury of House Cawdor versus the Killjoys of House Escher. Battle number 2 for this round will be fought between the Dustmen of the Chaos Cultists versus Precinct 13 of the Adeptus Arbites Enforcers. Battle number 3 will be between 9/11 of House Vansar against the Iron Sights of House Orlok. Battle 4 will be between Section 8 of the Venators versus the Pelago Slam Kings of House Goliath. And battle number 5 for this round will be between the Red Faction of the Gene Stealer Cults versus the Sleeping Dogs of House Delak. And that is the current situation going on with our campaign for round number 3. So with the campaign information over with, let's go and get our battle report on a roll. Alright, so with the round 3 campaign information out of the way, let's go and talk about our battle report. This is battle report number 11 of our Underhive Wars campaign for control of Sector 7. This one is fought between my friend Lady Domina with her Killjoys of House Escher versus my gang, the Jury of House Cawdor. So this is our 11th battle report in this Dominion campaign so far, and this is a border dispute scenario. So because that my friend Lady Domina and I will be battling out for supremacy on this one. And this one's kind of an interesting one because so far Lady Domina has won, I believe, all of her battles up to this point, and same thing with my gang. So these two gangs have zero losses at this point. So this one will be the tipping point to see which one is actually better. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to play some background music real quick. If you want to see exactly what we're bringing for our scenario for this one, go ahead and pause and take a look at your own leisure. So that being said, let's get this battle report on a roll. Alright, so the scenario for this one is called Border Dispute. For deployment, both of us start off with D3 plus 3 randomly chosen gang members. And one gang member for each side is actually deployed right in the middle of the battlefield. So if you look at the Crown Complex, which is that skyscraper right in the middle of the battlefield, both of our gangers are put on top of that center battlefield piece. And after we get done putting our 2 that are randomly selected, we just put them right there in the middle of the battlefield. The rest of them are set up in our deployment areas, however we want to set them up. At the start of each end phase, we get D3 reinforcements that arrive at the end phase. And we roll a d6 for each fire that shows up. On a roll of 1 to 2, my opponent gets to decide where my reinforcements go, and on a 3 up, I get to decide where my reinforcements go. And we can deploy on any aidable edge not within 6 inches of the enemy when our reinforcements do show up. The objective is pretty simple. It's to secure the turf and defile your gang enemy's gang relic. So both of us have gang relics on this one. We'll show you photos of those located at. For the rewards, the gang that destroys a rival gang's relic gets d6 times 10 credits as a result, as a reward. Now, if not, you get d3 times 10 credits if yours does get defiled. Now, for experience points, you get 1 point of experience for each fighter who fights in this scenario, and the winning gang leader earns +1 experience point. For reputation, both gangs earn +1 reputation for fighting against each other for the very first time. You also earn 2 points of reputation if you defile your enemy's gang relic and yours wasn't. However, if you lose your relic, you do lose 2 reputation points, and if you don't destroy your enemies, you get also -1 reputation if either one of you battles out. And that pretty much makes up the scenario rules for this one. So here's an overhead shot of the battlefield. We're playing on a 4x4 table. I am deployed on the near side of the table. My opponent, Lady Domina, is deployed on the far side of the table. Pretty much what the battle plan is, I just planning on going on the offense in this one. I am playing Cawdor. We do have shorter range weapons in my army list, aside from my long rifle for my Ganger Sorter. So what my plan is to steam across the battlefield as quickly as I can, try to engage my opponent and destroy her gang relic as a process of doing so. Or if I can, drive off her gang completely, because if I do manage to drive her off, I do automatically destroy her relic at the same time. And that's pretty much my plan is. I'm going to also kind of try to be a little bit more reserved. If my reinforcements come in, I'm going to try and have them defend my relic while my guys are deployed to take the offense. And that's pretty much my plan on this one. And my gang relic in my territory is located in the office building in the lower right hand corner. And Lady Domina's gang relic is located in the MCI Chemical Works in the very far left hand corner. It's actually on top of one of the fuel canisters. So with the battle plan over with, let's go and talk about deployment real quick. Alright, so starting off right in the center of the battlefield, we have 2 gang members. For me, I have Mondo. I'm sorry, not Mondo. Mondo. That's my ganger who's armed with an auto rifle. He's got flak armor as well as a maul. He's located on that table edge right there. And across from him, I believe that is Marlo. I believe that's her name. She's a juvie who's armed with a stub gun with dum-dum bullets as well as a stiletto knife. And she's located across the battlefield as well. So that makes the deployment here in the center. Meanwhile, in my area, my deployment area, on the top of that catwalk right in the center of the frame, that is Sorter. That's my ganger who's armed with flak armor. He's got a long rifle as well as a reclaimed auto pistol, maul, as well as a drop rig. Right next to him is Limit Head. That is my champion who's armed with mesh armor as well as a combi flamer. It's a combination of a reclaimed auto gun as well as a flamer, and he has a maul. And he's really good in close combat because he has the rain of blow skills as well. And then down below I have my 2 juvies. That is Johnny. He's a juvie's armed with a maul as well as a reclaimed auto pistol as well as flak armor. And right next to him is Tetsuo, who's another juvie armed with flak armor, a stub gun with dum-dum bullets as well as a maul. And in the far right hand corner on the top of the little office tower there, a ruined office building, I have my gang relic, which is represented by that fuel canister right on top of that wooden pallet. Meanwhile, across the battlefield is Lady Domina's Killjoys on the very top of the level of the MCI office building for that chemical tank farm. On the left hand side, that's her gang champion Mad Donna. She has mesh armor, a heavy stubber, a last gun, a last pistol, as well as a drop rig. Right next to her, that is One Shot Blonde, who is armed with flak armor, last gun, last pistol, as well as a drop rig as well. Right beneath them, that is Trixie. She's a gang who's armed with flak armor, last gun, chainsword, last pistol, as well as frag grenades. And on the very bottom there, you have what's her name? Harlow, I believe is what her name is. That's right. She's a juvie who's armed with flak armor, last gun, stub gun, shock whip, as well as dum-dum bullets. And right behind her is another juvie named Lucky Lucy, who's armed with flak armor, a last pistol, as well as a shock whip. And that makes it Lady Domina's deployment on this one. And on right on top of one of those fuel canisters in the back, that is her gang relic. It is represented by that stack of MRE boxes on top of that wooden pallet. So with deployment over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 1, and my afraid Lady Domina and I, we roll off for initiative to see who goes first. Alright, so my very first turn, I get to go first. I managed to get the initiative on this one, so I activate Mondo, who opens up with his auto gun going rapid fire against, what's her name, Marlo, who's on the top of there, the juvie right across from him. Unfortunately for me, though, I missed my shots horribly, so because of that, nothing ends up happening for her, so she is perfectly fine. Lady Dama then activates Harlow, who's her juvie, who's armed with a last gun, actually spends a double movement moving across the catwalk from her MCI Chemical Work office buildings directly to the Crown Complex, trying to press the advantage right through the center to try to attack. In response to that, I then activate Lemonhead, who's also a champion, so he also activates Sorter. I actually have Lemonhead do a double movement across that ladder to the third floor of the Crown Complex. That way I can start pressing my advance towards the Gang Relic. And I keep Sorter exactly where he's located at because he's got a long rifle and I can actually get a really clear line of shot right through that window there, right in front of him, of the Crown Complex that leads directly to Trixie, who's on the third floor of the MCI Chemical Works office building. So I decided to take a basic action to have him aim his weapon, so that way he gets +1 to hit. And the reason why is because Trixie is partially obscured by that office building window, so that negates the -1 to hit. And then I spend, of course, the other part of his basic action to open fire with his long rifle. Luckily for me, I do manage to hit her as well as to wound her. However, I rolled a serious injury on the injury dice, so she's laying on the ground bleeding out right now, and she will need to roll up on the end phase to see exactly what happens to her. So first blood goes to me at this point. Lady Domina then activates Raven. I apologize, that was the other gang member. She was kind of obscured in the shadow, so I really couldn't see her. Raven is a gang who's armed with a bolt gun as well as a chainsword, and she actually spends double movement as well, going right behind Lucky Lucy to lend support for her because they're going to assault through the office building and straight towards my lines. Meanwhile, to activate my juvie Johnny, I have him spend a double movement going to the base of the Crown Complex, so that way he can start working his way up the building and try to lend some support to the other members of my gang that are also assaulting the office building. And Lady Dama decides to activate Mad Donna. Mad Donna has a clear line of sight towards Johnny with my juvie, and I'm kind of using him as bait to draw out the stubber. She does open up, and unfortunately she misses both of her shots for rapid fire ability, so nothing much happens there. But because Mad Donna is also a gang champion, she also activates One Shot Blonde. One Shot Blonde uses her drop rig to drop her down to the catwalk, and then she spends a basic movement action moving up right behind Raven, so that way they can start assaulting the Crown Complex. And then finally I activate Tetsuo, who does a double movement towards the base of the Crown Complex to lend some support for Johnny as well. And that pretty much makes up the action phase for turn number 1. So with the action phase over with, we go directly to the end phase. Lady Domina rolls for the recovery for Trixie and rolls a flesh wound, so because that Trixie is back on her feet again, she is -1 toughness because of her flesh wound, which makes her easier to wound against in close combat as well as in shooting. However, she's still pretty deadly. She is packing a last gun as well as a last pistol, so I still got to worry about taking her on because she's still a ganger that can still fight. Alright, so then we go directly to the rest of the end phase where we actually bring in our reinforcements. The very first one I bring back is Riptor. I believe he's the only one I actually managed to get control of. When I roll for the other two, which is Reptile as well as VR, Lady Domina got to decide where they got deployed at. So because of that, I deployed Riptor right next to that rubble pile at the base of the catwalk that's running to the center of the battlefield, so that way he can either take the offensive and try to assault Lady Domina and take out her relic, or I can send him back to where my relic is located at and defend it as well. Lady Domina also brings in her reinforcements as well. She managed to secure 2 of them so she can deploy them wherever she wants to, and the third one I got to deploy. She managed to deploy both Furia, her gang leader, as well as Marlowe, which is the other juvie. Oh, so not Marlowe, that's Nocturna. Nocturna's armed with a last gun as well as a stiletto sword. She's on the right hand side. And then Furia, of course, is armed with a chain sword as well as a bolt gun and a last pistol, and they deploy right here in my deployment area, right to that ladder that leads straight up to my gang relic, so that part is pretty terrifying. And I did manage to take control of her juvie Marlowe, which I put on the top of the Parkway building. Unfortunately for me though, I failed my rolls for VR as well as Tetsuo, so she puts VR right in the middle of that catwalk that's right in front of the Parkway complex, Parkway Properties building, right in the line of sight of Marlowe to be able to shoot him next turn, so that part is pretty terrifying. And then she takes Reptile and deploys him right next to the Alexander's apartment store, which is near the top of the battlefield in the center, and puts him on the ground level, putting him way out of range to order attack or to move against any of Lady Domina's forces. And that pretty much ends turn number 1 for this one. Here's an overhead shot of the battlefield at the end of turn number 1, so that way you get a better idea of what's going on. As you can see, Lady Domina is starting to press her attack towards my gang relic in the bottom right hand corner. At the same time, Lady Domina as well as I are trying to send our forces directly into the Crown Complex to start fighting one another, so that way we can assault through and then also attack her gang relic as well. At the same time, the very top right hand corner where the Parkway Properties building is located at, she has a juvie and I have my 2 other gang members from the jury stuck up there as well. And they got a long run in order to make it across the battlefield to have any good at it whatsoever. So with the end of turn number 1 over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 2 and we roll off for initiative to see who goes first. So, turn number 2, Lady Domina manages to secure the initiative on this one, so she activates her gang leader Furia, who then uses her commanding presence ability to activate Nocturna. Nocturna spends a double moving up the top of her ladder to the second floor of that ruined office building, making her way to assault across the office building to the top level where my gang relic is located at. She then takes her gang leader and has her aim with her bolt rifle, and she actually opens up and manages to open fire directly onto Riptor, my gang leader. Now, Furia does manage to hit Riptor and manages to pin him, but unfortunately for her though, and luckily for me, she wasn't able to cause any wounds. I believe she rolled a 1 to wound, so because of that, Riptor is now laying on the ground just kind of stunned, laying face up, because he just took a bolt shell to the chest and he managed to survive that without getting killed, so I got really lucky on that one. Now, unfortunately, the only thing I can do with him, of course, is stand him up on his feet. I could move him, his normal movement allowance, in order to get some cover, or I could blind fire, but if I do blind fire, I do suffer a -2 to hit penalty because he's just shooting 360 and kind of wildly aiming wildly, so it kind of puts my gang leader out of order, so that way he really can't do much of anything for this turn, so that part's kind of rough as well. And to make matters worse for Lady Domina, she did roll up a ammo roll for this one, so she had to take an ammo check on it. She failed it, so because of that, she won't be able to shoot again. She'll have to spend a simple action to reload her weapon, which of course limits her ability to move if she wants to shoot, or she can move without shooting. It just kind of messes up with her plans as well. So, not wanting my gang relic to be destroyed, they didn't activate Cawdor next, who then turns 180 degrees, using one of his basic actions to move. He then also takes his second basic action and opens fire with his long rifle directly into Nocturna, so that way he can hit her as well. Now, the cool part was I was able to hit Nocturna with my long rifle, however I was not able to wound her, so because of that she's just pinned. So that once again kind of limits her as well, because she has to spend one of her actions getting back on her feet again. Of course, she could shoot blindly like Riptor and suffer a -2 to hit penalty, or she can actually move to cover. It's really up to her at that point. Meanwhile, in the center of the skyscraper of the Crown Complex, Lady Domina then activates her juvie, that's Harlow, that's right, that's her name. She's armed with the last gun, no, sorry, not Harlow, that's Lucky Lucy, I'm sorry, I'm getting the names mixed up. She's armed with the last pistol as well as a shock whip. She opens up with her last pistol, managing to hit as well as wounding a DJ, but she only managed to put a wound on him, on a flesh wound. So because of that, Mondo is a little bit easier to wound now. He's now only toughness 2, but at the same time though, I want some vengeance, so then I activate Mondo and have him return fire with his reclaimed autogun. And the cool part was I managed to hit her twice as well as wound her twice, which is pretty awesome as well, giving her 2 flesh wounds in the process of doing so. So she does get back up on her feet again because she only has 2 flesh wounds, so she is toughness 1. If she suffers another flesh wound, she will go out of action, which will be pretty awesome, but at the same time though, she's still a very dangerous gang member because she can still shoot, she can still fight even at toughness 1, and Eschers are deadly in close combat, so that's another thing I gotta worry about as well. Lady Domina then activates Marlowe, I believe that's her name. That's the ganger who is armed with a stub gun and dum-dum bullets, I think is what she's armed with. Yeah. So she takes aim directly at the VR, and she opens fires with her stub gun. Now, stub guns with dum-dum bullets, in case you're not aware of it, dum-dum bullets actually give stub guns strength 4 hits when they actually hit you. The only thing you got to worry about though is if you roll an ammo check for that, the dum-dum bullets are completely out of ammo, and you got to buy them again at the next activation turn for the next turn for the scenario. But she opens fires on VR, and she manages to hit VR. However, she doesn't manage to wound him, but that doesn't really matter because VR is so close to the edge, he has to take an initiative test to see if he falls, and unfortunately VR fails his initiative test. And of course, he plummets to the ground and manages to get seriously injured when he finally hits the ground as well. So I'll need to roll for the end phase to see exactly what happens to him, to see if he gets back on his feet again with a flesh wound, or if he gets out of action in the serious injury table. Now, I know he's laying face up. I do apologize for that. He should have been turned the other way. He is not pinned. He is actually seriously injured right now. So I do apologize if there's any confusion with that photograph. Now, when VR fell, he did fall within 3 inches of Reptile, my juvie, so because of that, my juvie does have to take a nerve test to see if he breaks. Unfortunately for him, he fails his cool test, and he runs back like 8 inches, I think is what it is. So he runs all the way to the edge of the catwalk and taking cover behind that pylon because he doesn't want to get shot at, which kind of sucks because now he can't do anything for the action phase. I'll have to wait for the end phase for him to recover his nerve again, so that part was kind of rough as well. So in response to that, I then activate my game champion Limit Head, who does move across the battlefield, across the ladder, back to the catwalk again, and I spend another basic action for him to open up with automatic fire from his combi autogun, so that part was cool. I actually aimed my combi autogun directly at Furia, which is Lady Domina's gang leader. Unfortunately for me though, I did manage to hit Furia, so that part was kind of cool. So she does get pinned, however I wasn't able to wound her at all, so because of that she is laying on the ground too. Now that does kind of mess up her a little bit because she has to spend a basic action to get back on her feet again, and so she can either move or fire blindly, but you know, whatever I can do to kind of slow down Lady Domina from destroying my gang relic, I'll take whatever I can get at that point. Alright, so I'm going to warn you now, in the next couple of frames, I took a couple of pictures at the same time where after several move action phases have taken place in order to condense it a little bit and to save you guys some time on this video. So if you're wondering why there's multiple movements taking place per frame, that's pretty much what ends up happening. So Lady Dama then activates Harlow, who's her juvie arm with the last gun. She moves up her normal movement allowance to the 3rd level balcony of the Crown Complex. And the reason why she does that is so that way she can take aim with the last gun and hit directly into Lemonhead, who's across that ladder in the central walkway of the battlefield. Now she does take aim and she opens up with the last gun, but unfortunately for her though, she didn't hit him. And so because of that, not much really happened there. She then also takes the rest of her gang, which is One Shot Blonde as well as Raven. They also move directly into the center of the building as well, so that way they can start taking some pot shots. They do open fire with their rounds at the catwalk where Sorter as well as Lemonade are located at, but unfortunately for them though, they failed to hit, so because of that, their shots don't really do much of anything. Now if you look here in the bottom of the screen, you can see both Darkseid as well as Johnny. They spent a double action moving to the 2nd floor of the Crown Complex, that way I can start pressing my advance toward Lady Domina's gang relic. And here's the other side of the Crown Complex that I was talking about before, where she spent a double movement moving both Raven as well as One Shot Blonde. Like I said, they're occupying the 3rd floor, so that way they can start moving across it and start shooting at both Sorter as well as Lemonhead on the catwalk, so that way she can destroy my gang relic as well. And that was the action I was talking about in the last frame. So Lady Dama then activates Mad Donna. She opens up with her heavy stubber, but was unfortunate to hit, couldn't hit anything in that case, so because of her shots kind of misfired on that part. And same thing with Trixie. Trixie has nobody to shoot at either. She tries her best to open fire onto Johnny, but because he's so hidden by that corner of the Crown Complex, she has to roll a 6 in order to hit him, and unfortunately for her, she wasn't able to do much of anything on that part. So that pretty much wraps up the action phase on this part. And the last thing I do is have my gang leader. So I have my gang leader, I activate him, I spend a simple turn putting him back on his feet again, so that way he can stand up and start shooting, and I decided to go with a blind fire shot. My hope is that because I have an automatic fire on my bolt gun, if I fire rapid fire, hopefully I can land enough shots in order to roll off a 6, because I'm going to have to roll a 6 in order for him to hit anything, because he's kind of shooting blindly in the direction of Furia, which is the gang leader for the Killjoys. So that's exactly what I do. I get him back on his feet again, I roll my rapid fire dice, and when I roll my rapid fire dice, I actually landed 3 hits with my bolt gun. And not only do I manage to hit her twice with my bolt gun, I also managed to wound her twice as well. So we rolled up for the injury on this one. She is rolled up out of action. She rolls a grievous injury for herself, so because of that, she will need to go to recovery at the end of the scenario. So that part was pretty awesome as well, netting 2 experience points in the process because I took a gang leader member out of action, and that gang leader member was the leader of the Killjoys, netting him another experience point as well. So with the action phase over with, we go directly to the end phase. And in the end phase, I roll for VR's injuries. He's still seriously injured, so he's just laying on the ground still bleeding because he fell quite a distance falling from the top of the catwalk from that dum-dum slug he took to the chest. And luckily for me, Reptile also managed to get back his nerve as well, so I'll be able to use him again in the next following turn for the action phase. And finally, for the reinforcement phase, I do manage to bring back one of my juvies, that's Tetsuo, and Tetsuo is located right directly at that ladder, looking directly at Nocturna, and my plan is to actually have him charge her directly into close combat to engage her, so that way he can take her out, hopefully. Now, he is a juvie, so he's not really good at close combat yet, as opposed to Nocturna, who's really skilled at close combat because she's a ganger, but I have to do something in order to stop her from getting to my gang relic, because if she destroys that, I lose reputation on this one, and I really don't want to do that. So that's going to be very critical for me. So with the end phase over with, we go directly to the top of the turn number 3 to roll for initiative to see who goes first. So here is the overhead shot of turn number 2 real quick so that we can see what's going on the battlefield. The Killjoys have me in a pincer attack right now, attacking across from the Crown Complex to the center catwalk where most of my forces are located at. And at the same time, she also has her ganger Nocturna trying to go after my relic as well. And me, I'm just scrambling to try to attack a 2-front war, sending Darkseid as well as Johnny the Juve to go directly across the Crown Complex to attack the MCI Chemical Works. At the same time, I have Sorter as well as Lemonhead and Rip Torhole in the center, as well as Tetsuo in the back trying to stop Nocturna. And at the same time, across the battlefield, we have Lucky Lucy, who's the juvie who managed to hit VR. VR still on the ground bleeding, and Reptile is trying to make his way to the battlefield to become relevant. So we go directly to the top of turn number 3, and we roll for initiative, and I managed to secure on this one. So the first thing I do As I charge in Tetsuo, I roll a 3 on my D3 to see how far he goes. So because of that, I do run up 9 inches and directly engage Nocturna into close combat, and we go at it. I get +1 attack from charging, and I also get 2 attacks as well because I have a stun gun as well as a maul. Nocturna only has a stiletto sword, so she only gets her 1 attack in close combat, but she has a weapon skill of 4, I believe is what she ends up. Yeah, she has a weapon skill of 4, while Tetsuo only has a weapon skill of 5, so that part is kind of bad. However, Tetsuo does manage to land a blow with his maul, causing 2 damage onto Nocturna as well, so she goes out of action. As you can see, the result came out as a 51, so she suffers a hit injury, which she will suffer a -1 to her intelligence as well as to her will, and she goes directly into recovery as well. So that part was pretty awesome. So now my gang relic is definitely secured at this point. Meanwhile, Lady Domina being upset that she's out of ammo for her dum-dum bullets for Marlowe, she sends Marlowe directly into the fray, charging her across the battlefield. She actually made that leap right across the opening down the top of the Crown Complex, if you actually believe it. There's actually a 2-inch gap there, and she just jumped over it because, you know, Eschers, when they want you dead, they want you dead. So she engages Mondo into close combat as well. And that's kind of a rough one for me because Mondo only has a weapon skill of 4. He has a maul, so that part's kind of cool. But Marlowe, because she's carrying a stiletto knife as well as a stub gun, she actually has an additional attack. Plus she charges, she also gets additional attack as well. And she's actually the same kind of strength weapon skill that I am as well. She is 1 point less strength than I am because Juvies are a little bit weaker for the Escher than they are against gangers from Cawdor. But she is packing a stiletto knife, which has a toxin special ability, so things are kind of in her favor. Plus, both these fighters are carrying flesh wounds, so it'll be kind of to see exactly how this combat goes. Needless to say, though, Marlowe did manage to hit me with her stiletto knife like I talked about, and she actually put Mondo out of action, rolling out an out cold result, so that's the nice part. He doesn't go into recovery, but at the same time, he's not participating in this battle anymore. And Lady Domina's Marlowe also earns herself an experience point for taking out a ganger out of action, so that's pretty awesome for her. Meanwhile, activate Lemonhead, and because he's a champion, he also activates Sword at the same time. So I open up with Lemonhead first, have him open up with his auto rifle, shooting a rapid fire directly into Harlow, who is the juvie who's armed with a last gun right across the ladder in the 3rd floor balcony of the Crown Complex. He does manage to hit her as well as a wound her, and he also puts a serious injury when I roll for the injury dice on that one as well. So because of that, Harlow is laying on the ground bleeding out, and she will need to roll up at the end phase to see exactly what happens to her as well. So now that she is down, the closest target for Sorter is all the way across the battlefield through the windows again, straight towards Trixie. So then I have Sorter take aim with his long rifle and open up onto Trixie as well. And not only do I manage to hit her, I also manage to wound her and put her out of action, landing an out cold result as well. So because of that, Trixie is out of action on this one. Now, she doesn't have to worry about taking any serious injuries because she'll make a full recovery. But at the same time, though, I do net nab a experience point for Sorter, so that part was pretty cool as well. So in order to protect herself and also to get some revenge, Lady Domina then activates Raven. Raven moves up her normal 6 inches to the edge of the windows of the 3rd level, the 4th level of the Crown Complex. She takes aim with her bolt gun and opens up on Sorter with rapid fire. She earns herself an additional shot with the rapid fire dice. However, her shots go wild. I think she rolled a 1 and a 2 on this one. So because that, Raven's shots don't really go anywhere at all. So my guys are pretty lucky at this point, considering that she was shooting a fully automatic bolt gun. I just got lucky that she failed her dice roll on that one. I then might activate my juvie, Johnny, who then charges up to the 3rd level of the Crown Complex and actually lands directly into Harlow as well, managed to put a coup de grace on her as well, and she rolls a grievous injury for her injury as well. So she will go into recovery, but afterwards she'll make a full recovery without any problems whatsoever. However, doing that did come with a price, however. By sending my juvie charging up like that, I did leave him directly open from the field of fire from Mad Donna to open up with her heavy stubber. I figured it was worth the risk because Johnny is just a juvie, and if he does get killed, I can easily replace him. Not to sound bitter, but I can't actually do that because he is a juvie, and he's also a brand new recruit. I got him for free from my settlement, so if he dies, nothing bad happens, so I figured it was worth the risk. Unfortunately, though, for me anyways, Lady Domina takes aim with Mad Donna. She cuts loose with her heavy stubber, managed to hit him twice. Actually only managed to wound him once. She hit him twice, wounded him once, and puts a serious injury on him. So because of that, Johnny is now laying on the ground bleeding out. So if he does get charged against, he'll go out of action from Recruiter Gra. But at the same time, though, it was well worth it because I'm starting to realize now I'm not going to be able to cross the battlefield to engage Lady Domina and try to take out her gang relics. So at this point, I'm just kind of going for body count and hoping that she'll bottle out because I caused enough injuries at this point. So that makes it the action phase on this side of the Crown Complex. And in response, I then spend a normal movement allowance for Darkseid to go up to the top level of the Crown Complex as well, and I also move them up. No, I'm sorry, I just used a double movement in order to do that. That's right, because I charged last time with Johnny. Johnny was able to make the distance with his charge, but because he's a juvie, and juvies are quick, but Darkseid not so much. I just move him up to the third level of the Crown Complex. I can't shoot because he's not carrying a regular shotgun, he's only carrying a sawn-off shotgun, because Cawdor weapons are crappy in this edition when you first start out, so I'm going to spend some money to give him a better weapon later on. So then Lady Dama then activates One-Shot Blonde, who moves her to the edge of the building, just like Raven. She takes aim with her last gun and actually aims at Cawdor and hits him. Now, she does hit Cawdor, so that part was kind of cool for her, but she was unable to wound him. But because Cawdor is so close to the edge of the catwalk, he has to take an initiative test, and unfortunately for me, Cawdor failed that initiative test. And not only does he fall and gets injured, he goes directly out of action, and I rolled an out cold result for his injury. So because of that, Cawdor does go out of action. Now, nothing bad will happen to him in terms of injuries, but at the same time, though, my Ganger armed with a long rifle is now out of commission. Luckily for me, though, Riptor passes cool check, so everything is fine at this point. Except for the fact that I just lost a gang member. Lemonhead, however, did not take the news very well, so because of that, he became broken. As you can see here, he drops down a level to hide behind that support pylon, so that way he doesn't get shot at, because he's just all kinds of sad watching Cawdor get shot off that catwalk. And in Act Revenge, I then move Riptor to the top of the second floor of the catwalk. I move him up for a basic action, moving him up to that direction, and then I have him take aim with his bolt gun, opened up with rapid fire directly onto Raven, who's the Ganger's arm with a bolt gun that's on the third floor of the Crown Complex. Not only managed to hit and wound, I also put a memorable death on her as well, which is pretty freaking awesome when you think about it, so that part was kind of cool too. It's really cool for me, not so great for Lady Dama though, because he just lost a gang member who just got killed. So not only does he net himself an experience point for taking her out, but when I rolled my D3 to see exactly how many more experience points he got from that, he got 2 additional experience points for taking her out, which meant that he must have just like run up there, roared, opened fire, and landed a headshot on that poor girl, just splattering her brains all over the top of the roof of that Crown Complex. So because of that, Raven is dead and she is wiped out from her gang's roster, so that part was pretty awesome for me. Not so great for Lady Dama, but pretty awesome for the jury. And for Lady Dama, for obvious reasons, One-Shot Blonde fails her cool check and she's broken, and she runs back, I think 7 inches, to the other side of the Crown Complex, to the Killjoys side, because she just watched her friend's head explode like a rotten watermelon, and she wants no part of that whatsoever. So she flees to the other side of the battlefield in order to not get shot at. Lady Dama then activates Lucky Lucy, her juvie is armed with the last pistol. She spends a double movement dropping down to the third floor of the Parkway Properties building, so that way she can take that gangplank across the alleyway directly into the Crown Complex to lend some support to her fellow gang members. And at the same time, I move up Reptile, spending a double movement to get him to the same area he fled from before, landing him right next to VR as well. So with the action phase over with, we go directly to the end phase. So when I roll for my gangs for the recovery, Johnny, he is still seriously injured, so he's just laying on the ground still bleeding out at this point. And the exact same thing ends up happening for VR, who is still seriously injured as well. And not wanting to lose any more members of her gang, Lady Dama at this point decides to sacrifice it and just call at this point, netting a victory for Cawdor on this one. So I do manage to win this battle report, so that part's pretty awesome. We're going to go directly to the post game and talk exactly what happened to both these gangs, because this battle report is now officially over. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the Killjoys of House Escher. For their gang's injuries, they had a bunch of injuries on this one. They had Furia, Trixie, Raven, Nocturna, as well as Harlow. Now, Furia, the gang leader, rolled a grievous injury, so she will miss her next battle report. Trixie rolled out cold, so because of that, she will be able to participate in the next scenario. Nocturna suffered a head injury, -1 to her intelligence and willpower, so she will also go to recovery. And same thing with Harlow, she also suffered a grievous injury as well. Now, Raven was killed, so that part was kind of sad. However, Lady Dama does have a Stinger Mold Sprawl for a territory, and one of the enhanced boons from that territory is that if you have somebody who is seriously injured, even dead, she could actually re-roll the result if she wants to instead. So because of that, she decided to use that ability from her Stinger Mold Sprawl, and actually Raven makes a grievous injury roll instead. So because of that, she doesn't die, she just is out of action right now, and she will not be able to participate in the next battle report because she's in recovery. So just like that, Raven is back from the dead again, and I can just imagine it too. You can see like the Killjoys running to the Stinger Mold Sprawl, like just running to the waist, taking their friend's body to it real quick, and then shoving some weird alien fungus stuff right directly in the bullet hole wound in her head, and then she just kind of opens her eyes. And so, yeah, that's exactly what happened to Raven at that part. I just can imagine it too. It's very cinematic if you think about it. So Lady Dama is all kinds of relieved to realize that one of her best fighters is still alive and kicking. For advancements, Marlo the Juvie did advance to level 2, earning +1 to her cool, so that part is kind of neat. In her territory, when she rolled for her territory to see if she got any new recruits, she rolled a 6, so because of that, she recruited a brand new Juvie named Sister Christian, because she loves that song, so why not? So Sister Christian is now a new Juvie for the Killjoys as well. She also collected 10 credits from her settlement as well. And like I said, from the Stinger Mold Sprawl, she brought Raven back from the dead with a grievous injury result instead, and she also earns 1 point of reputation from her Stinger Mold Sprawl as part of the enhanced boons from that one for being House Escher. At the Merchant, she did earn 30 credits from the scenario, and when combined from the 10 credits from the settlement and the stash that she had left over, she ended up with a net worth of 45 credits. She purchased a last gun for Marlo, so now her Juvie is also carrying a last gun, and she purchased flak armor, stiletto knife, as well as a last pistol for Sister Christian for her newly recruited Juvie. Now when it came to reputation, she earned 1 point of reputation from her settlement, as well as from her Stinger Mold Sprawl, as well as fighting against the jury for the very first time. Now she did lose a point of reputation from bottling out, and she also loses 2 points of reputation because her gang relic was destroyed, because when you voluntarily bottle out, it automatically gets destroyed. So what that ended up doing, it actually did nothing for her reputation. She's still at her current total of 9 points from last round, so that's all that happened for that one. Her gang's new record now is at 2 wins as well as 1 loss, and her new gang rating now is at 1,240 points. And lastly, we're going to talk about the jury real quick. So for my injuries, I had 2 injuries for my gang. That was Sorter as well as Mondo, but both those guys were perfectly fine because they rolled out cold results on theirs, so they're perfectly fine. For advancements, Riptor, because he netted himself, I think, 6 experience points. He leveled himself up to level 3 on this one, getting +1 to his ballistic skill, so now his ballistic skill is 3 up as well. So that part was kind of cool. Plus my Juvie Tetsuo also leveled up to level 2. He also got +1 to his ballistic skill as well, cashing in all of his experience points to get that. For my territories, I got my settlement. I earned 50 credits for my settlement, as well as 30 credits for my old ruin. And when I also rolled for my slag furnace, I also earned 30 credits from that one as well. Now, because this one was for capturing brand new territory, when we pulled the card from the deck to see what territory I got an Archaeotech device, which grants status effects on weapons. So that part was pretty cool as well. I could either put a blaze effect on all the weapons in my gang, I could put radphage effects, seismic effects, or shock effects on all my weapons. So that part's kind of cool, and I can also mix and match them too if I want to. The only drawback from this though is that my ammo type is from just normal basic ammo rolls to unstable, which means that if I fail my ammo rolls for any one of my weapons, they could explode and actually kill my gangers. So that part is kind of scary if you think about it that way. So it's definitely a risk management, high risk, high reward type situation for my gang now. And since we're Cawdor, all of the ammo roll tests for all my weapons are horrible because, you know, we just kind of scrapped them together. So I'm gonna have to think long and hard on that one to see if I really want to use that or not. Well, we'll see. Maybe I'll just put on my Juvies because if they die, I can always replace them. Now, from the merchant, I do earn 60 credits from the scenario. So when you combine from all the credits I got from my my territories as well as from my stash, I ended up with a grand total of 175 credits. With that one, I hired a brand new gang champion. His name is Scorpion. Now, the reason why I got another champion is because, as the rule states, you can add more champions as the campaign goes on. So I decided to do that one instead. I hired a new one. His name is Scorpion. I equipped him with a grenade launcher with crack as well as frag grenades. Now, I also purchased 2 reclaimed auto rifles. I gave one of them to Scorpion for a backup weapon in case his grenade launcher goes kaput, and I bought another reclaimed auto rifle for Tetsuo, my Jew, because he made his first advancement and he can actually carry more special equipment now. For my reputation, I earned 1 point reputation from my settlement as well as from the fact of fighting against the Killjoys for the very first time, and I also get 2 reputation for winning the scenario as well, netting me a grand total of 13 points of reputation, which is pretty awesome. My new record now is at 3 wins as well as 0 losses, and my new gang rating is at 1,475 points. So that's good for this one, you guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, answer, or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, blogger.com, as well as Instagram for all the latest greatest news about the hobby aspect of our channel. That's good for this one, you guys. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.